Hi, everyone. Welcome to this panel on how global EdTechs can reach India's 300 million students. My name is Laurie Forcier. I'm the Vice President for Strategy for EDT&Partners. EDT&Partners is a boutique global consulting firm focused solely on the business of education. We, in the course of our work, support EdTechs, publishers, groups of schools, governments, and sometimes we have the pleasure of supporting organizations like India's Arise. A number of the founders are here on the panel with me today. It stands for the Association for Reinventing School Education. Arise is a leading coalition of private schools in India with over 105 members, representing 1,350 institutions at 85,000 educators and 1.5 million school children, focused on policy advocacy and capacity building. I am joined today by Manit Jain from the Heritage Schools, Arunabh Singh from Healthy Planet Schools, Naga Tummala from Coschool, and Ayush Bansal from iDreamCareer. Thank you all for being here today. Just to give you a very high-level outline of the expertise we have assembled on this stage, which is not mutually exclusive to an individual. We have educationalists, entrepreneurs, business owners, school owners, investors, connectors, and policy influencers here to share their views and their thoughts and their knowledge about the Indian education market. So just to provide a little bit of context first, we know India is a substantial market. I've had the pleasure of sharing the stage with Arunabh on a couple of occasions, so I thought I'd share some of the figures I've heard him mention before, which are really relevant. India represents over 18% of the world's population, close to 1.5 billion people. It's the fifth largest economy in the world. GDP of over 4 trillion, surpassing the UK, where I'm based, as well as other large markets like Brazil. Over 1.4 million schools, 25% of all the schools worldwide. Close to 300 million students across K-12 and higher education, and 10 million teachers. And in the context of India, we've seen great progress in education. For example, through increased literacy rates, some really exciting, progressive new educational policies at the national level, but there are some really great challenges that remain too. So for example, quality challenges within schools and within the teaching profession. Ayush pointed me to a recent ILO employability report showing that secondary and college-educated students are actually employed at lower levels than some of their peers, which is a worrying statistic, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. India is a market where many companies want to enter, they want to grow, they want to make a difference, but it's just not that well understood. We hear many examples of companies entering and they fail. They miss the mark because they don't understand the challenges. They haven't been able to gain the necessary trust, or they've just gotten their marketing and their pricing all wrong. So today we're going to dig into this a little bit more, the nuances of the market, and look at the possibilities and opportunities. I'm going to ask Arunabh actually to get us kicked off today by sharing the context of some of the recent policy shifts, particularly the new education policy and the national curriculum framework that have been put in place, and some other large policy changes that are going to be changing the opportunities in the education system in India.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you also for this context. We've just gone through perhaps the biggest educational shift since our independence in 1947. When we got our independence from the British, we were 14% literacy in the country. We are hovering in late 70s now. So this has actually been the world's largest education program over the last 75 odd years. So we came out with this new national education policy, and as our country moves from currently a services economy to a knowledge economy, an attempt is being made to make our curriculum more immersive, to make our assessments more holistic, and our pedagogies that reflect the needs of the society that these children are going to go to, or the job world that these kids are going to go to. So we are changing what we teach, how we teach and how do we assess what we teach for 1/5 of the world's population. So the need and the opportunity that exists in this market, it's never been like this before. And we're 1 in every 5 humans. And if our students were a country, just our students were a country, we'd be the 4th largest in the world as a country. So the short answer is we've currently got an opportunity or a need in all subsets of education delivery and audits. And but like you said earlier, it's not the easiest of markets to operate in. We have many languages, we have many cultures, we have many needs. And hopefully we'd clarify some of that in the session today.
Just one quick follow-up, because I know you've been pretty deeply involved in the implementation of the new education policy. Just give us just a few highlights on where you think that policy is opening up some interesting, exciting new frontiers. So
it's very clearly calling out for the private sector to step in. And it's also recognizing the power of IT. And IT is something we usually do well. There are also some stereotypes attached to us. So that inclusion is coming in very fast. And in some ways, the government's understanding also of that one thing we've been able to do well is access to telephony and access to the internet. We've been able to reach the people on absolute margins with tech, while we still, in some places, have not been able to get them a skilled teacher. So this understanding that technology would help us amplify the right kind of educational access has finally settled in. And in India, we have the central government that makes one education policy, but then we also have states that come up with their own education policy. And increasingly, states are aligning to that national policy to say, well, yes, this makes sense. And the investment that the government is doing on these platforms to teach, to assess, to audit, or to set standards, a lot is happening at the same time.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you. Manit, I want to come to you. Drawing on your experience leading the heritage schools and then co-founding Arise, what are the problems that need solving? Like, what kind of products are Indian schools looking for?
Okay, so I think the Indian market is fairly complex, and to answer that question, I'd like to lay out what the different layers are. On one hand, about 50% of these students go to public schools. These are different in different states. All states have their own kinds of challenges. And then there is the private school market, which is, again, about 50%. So about 150 million odd kids go to private schools. Of these 150 million kids, 80% are going to schools where the fee structure is in the range of anywhere between $10 to $15 per annum. So you can imagine the quality of education that these kids are getting at that cost. Teachers are often not well prepared. They may be qualified, but the entire teacher education, pre-service teacher education system is not necessarily preparing them to reach out to every child, which is where we think the opportunity is. So when I'm thinking about products for India, I'm actually, and if you say the two areas to really work on are foundational literacy and foundational numeracy at the primary school level. We really need to strengthen these skills because, as we all know, if you're lagging in the first 4 or 5 years, then it becomes practically impossible to cover those gaps later on. Unfortunately, in India, the first real government program to focus on primary education started only about 25 years after we got independence. A lot of our focus was on higher ed institutions. So there's a huge opportunity there. Even basic stuff like decoding, phonetics, if I'm talking about literacy, even just in the learn to read phase, forget about the read to learn phase, our teachers are not being able to support kids. We're finding many of the kids in, say, in some of the surveys, grade 7 kids reading at grade 2 level. And it's going to be practically impossible to upskill these teachers suddenly in such large numbers. So a lot of the answers will lie in technologies that use AI tutoring, not so much, and I must caution you that a lot of products that are going to give some kind of a diagnosis and assessment where they're telling us what is wrong or where the gap is for a particular child are not going to be particularly helpful, because when a teacher is dealing with 40 kids, she really does not have the bandwidth to then support every child at their level. So we'd have to come with more than just the diagnosis. We'll have to come with full solutions, whether it is for math or yeah. So if I were to take an example of mathematics, if a child is doing a decimal problem and you understand that the child is not understanding it, you then need to figure out, the system needs to figure out if it is a fractions gap, then take the child there, then figure out if the child has a problem with basic division, and then support the child at those levels. So really the case that we're making is not of supporting the teacher so much, but maybe creating products that can take care of the entire content delivery so that teachers can be more focused on not teaching the subject, but teaching the child, really providing that care, providing that socio-emotional support, possibly playing the role of a coach where they do goal setting with each kid every week, and ensure they're providing enough inspiration and a reasonable amount of accountability to get the kids to where they want to get. Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you talk about the level of teacher preparedness and how EdTech can potentially ameliorate that, the current situation. But do you think that there is, and this is a question for anyone, a role for EdTech or Global EdTechs entering the market to support and build capacity of teachers as well?
Of course. Answer, I mean, that's a no-brainer. Answer to that is yes. But we see that we're currently placed at where technology can reach places where the teacher can't, just a physical teacher can't. So both of these statements would be true.
Just to probe a little bit further, like what kind of capacity building would you want to see then for teachers in the context of, all right, so you're bringing in technology that's going to do more of the content delivery. How are you strengthening the teacher profession at the same time? Are you using EdTech to shore up teaching traditionally defined, or are you using it then to push it into a different direction?
I think Naga is probably better placed for this answer with the work that he's doing right now.
So teacher capacity in the changing circumstances. Yeah. Teacher capacity in the changing circumstances. More than from the academic subject, it is how to understand the child, how to empathize with the child, how to inspire the child. That is what the future of the future role of the teacher. So there, those humanistic traits of the teacher need to be strengthened.
I'm going to stay with Naga. Oh, do you want to answer?
I'd also add, I think in the current context, just the use of technology. How do I harness what is available to reach out to my child? Yeah.
Okay. Ayush, do you want to?
So just to also add that, I mean, and there are hard statistics around it while we talk about teacher capacity. Almost 300,000 schools in India just have one single teacher, right? So equitable technological solution which can really deliver education at scale for students from even underserved communities wherein in these schools there are no teachers or just one teacher for all the subjects. There's a massive opportunity. I mean, it's really underserved at this point.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like all on the side of let's use technology to support on the content side, use technology to support teachers in that more human touch. Naga, when we spoke 2 weeks ago, you told me that you used to say, as a school owner, don't build ed tech for the schools market. And now you're building ed tech for the schools market. But you bring the insights as the founder of Oak Ridge Schools to that table. So tell us a little about the problem that you saw firsthand as a case study and how you're trying to solve for it with your product. And I'm curious, and I'm sure everyone else will be too, to hear about the challenges and problems you faced in trying to thread that needle.
Thank you, Laurie, remembering our discussion and asking this question. Do you ever think why there are no big EdTechs globally? The big techs, despite having deep pockets and good intentions, why they are still mostly restricted to the admin or ERP level of solution? Why not they couldn't come up with a learning solution that solves the education's biggest problem?
Which is?
See, before 2022 December, there was no such technology available that could enable conversation, which is quintessential for learning. As a result, any LMSs that exist before were essentially, they are teaching aids. And most times, most of the LMSs, if you see, actually they have increased the teachers' workload than helped them. So that's where the whole issue is. But now, with the generative AI and the ML and other technologies coming together, it is possible to provide such an experiential, interactive learning process that provides for two-way communication and conversation between the student and the tutor. Thereby, the learning is going to be complete. And that is important piece that was missing all the while. The second thing is, of course, good quality content is important. And the tutor, unless the accuracy levels are at least 95% plus, be it mathematics, sciences, physics, chemistry, any of the subjects, in education, accuracy is very, very important. You cannot be just a layer on the ChatGPT. So that is an important issue that we are solving. And not only that, in doing so, the greatest of the great technologies still cannot substitute a human teacher. Students require that inspiration for learning. So how we empower teachers, not sideline them, and at the same time reduce the workload on the teacher so that they can focus on the human aspect of the teacher that is very essential for academic learning. And at the same time, if you look at almost student is only 25% of the time in the teacher's custody. 75% of the time still parent is an important custodian. So how do we include the parent in the equation so that the at-home learning also can be enhanced? These are the aspects we are focusing. And only when any technology, as Manit just mentioned, that provides a comprehensive solution, and schools don't need to look for any other tools to solve that important learning problem, then schools don't see you as a vendor, rather they see you as a partner. That's where our focus is. That's the reason why I now have shifted this side.
And any challenges that you've faced, having not heeded your own warning?
See, challenges, when we talk of education, from a very 30,000 feet height, it looks very simple and easy. But the moment when you are an extension to the classroom, there is so much of customization that is required. What exactly teacher is teaching in the class, including the curriculum, including the publication at times, the same content has to be extended so that the teacher, what she is teaching at class and what expected for the child to learn at home is going to be seamlessly connected. If we do things like curriculum agnostic or generalistic learning things, and we expect teacher to put all the content into it, it is not solving the problem for teacher, rather it is burdening the teacher. So as you try to optimize any solution, you have to go to such a granular level and see whether you are solving the problem or you are adding to the problem. That's where we see it is not an easy work. It is so much deep work.
I want to add to this problem from the other side, and I was just having a conversation with Kotaro. Kotaro heads Benice from Japan, and they've got a big presence in India in English. They're solving English. And we commonly agree that the long sales cycle is also a problem. What Naga is alluding to, that the need of the school in one state to the other, or the price point at which they're operating is so different that it takes some bit of time to actually understand what this need is, then to design a program for it, and then deliver it. So that is another challenge that exists.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the work you've done building an EdTech product as well for your school. What's the problem you were trying to solve?
So we were out there looking to create a system that would allow us to transplant our ethos from one campus to the other as we expand, and create a system that would allow us to understand if something that had to be done has been done or not, so process mapping, and then also understand the efficacy of all of those things done to truly gauge a pulse of exactly what's going on in the organization. Now, which has got a use case in education, but actually has a use case in every services organization.
Okay, so you're trying to view quality at scale.
Sorry?
You're trying to assure quality at scale.
Quality at scale, yes.
Yes, yes.
And to get a pulse of, are there correlations to do some bit of data analysis or deep dive into our data? All schools across the world are sitting on piles of data that they do very little with. So, and we try to find if there was a solution available, and once there was just nothing that would fit our bill, is when we started creating this. It's been about 4 years. The system's working now. We're calling it the ecosystem. And yeah, I hope if there is somebody who's working on a similar system, we'd be happy to collaborate.
I want to come over to Ayush, who's a successful entrepreneur in India and working elsewhere as well. Tell us about the problem that you're solving and like how you're going about it, and like the advice that you have for other entrepreneurs trying to enter the market. I know you have some real insights about like what it takes to be successful.
So I would probably first start by saying that I don't know if it's really a good time for an Indian EdTech entrepreneur to be sitting here while all that has happened in the last about 15 to 18 months. But I would say that it was not 2020, but now is the greatest time. If anyone is looking at solving any education problem using technology, I mean, India it's just resetting, and it's for good. Uh, while I start on that context, there's a fundamental point that one needs to understand in India. Indian parents are really finicky about their kids' future and their education. And any solution that is being built for Indian market has to keep an outcome at their, I mean, it has to be the heart and soul of everything that any product is being delivered in India. Um, Anything that comes in which is not creating any outcome, will not sustain for a longer time. I think many solution which has probably not failed in the last couple of years has been in that bubble of not delivering that outcome for students, and you know you it just took away the attention of Indian parents. Adding to that, India as a country is just not one single piece of a product, solving problem of all categories of the population. Um, there is about 5 to 10% coming from high income families. There are about 35 to 40% coming from mid income families, about half of them coming from low income families. And there is a huge diversity in terms of the socioeconomic strata. Um, and any product that comes in has to understand for which category of the socioeconomic strata are you building for. Um, it's a really price sensitive market, if you're especially building for low income and even for mid income families. Though the volume is high, as we're talking about 300 million number, um, but if it's priced high, it wouldn't really scale up. And from that context, any product solution has to cater the socioeconomic strata, or if you're building for all, it has to be independent of any strata that you are building for. Um, with the context of being multilingual, the demography that India has from north to south to east to west, it changes drastically, right? So I think these are some of the very, very core fundamental things that one has to look at, and it takes time, right? You need patience to build business in India, and if it's education, you need more patience.
How long have you been around and what are your numbers?
It's, for me, it has been 12 years, right? Building one company, right, and solving one such problem. And I see, a couple of EdTech entrepreneurs, Kavish, Shobit, everyone that you see, they have been there for almost a decade, right? And what I talked about, I can see these two entrepreneurs also solving in a similar way as well, and that's why they have also been successful. So, if from the point of the patience, a lot of investment came in. India became, it attracted so many VC funding, um, but it went on to a transactional mode. The money came in, was invested right, left, center to acquire random, piece of solution, and only money is being spent to scale up the revenue didn't really work out, because outcomes and credibility in the Indian education market takes time, right? And once you build that, obviously it can scale up very aggressively and fast, but any VCs looking at Indian market should have patience, is all I can say.
Right.
I
You're saying.
just want to add something, when I shared that 80% of these schools have a fee structure less than $10 or $15 per month. And when Ayush is talking about how price sensitive the market is, please also understand it's a very aspirational population. So the other side of that is, while a school may not be able to afford great programs, but if you're going straight to consumers and say you made a promise to them that you can teach them English, a farmer will sell his land to make that happen for his child. So there's no limit to what we'd be willing to pay for education. It's just that in a lot of the rural contexts, the schools are such, the facilities are such, the teachers are such that you actually wouldn't pay more. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was just going to say, it sounds like, and I'm curious to hear what all of you had to say, that so for funders investing in the market, then needing to adjust their expectations around outcomes and the timelines will be critical to see a more kind of sustained, successful growth of a company they've invested in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I said, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I just want to switch over to generative AI. We've touched on it a little bit, and we all touched on it in the weeks leading up to this. I just want to hear about, like, what are your hopes for generative AI in education in India? How do you see it evolving alongside the changes it brings to the ways we live and work? How are you hoping that it will affect education?
Can I attempt it? I think answer to this is very similar across the world, where schools are looking to augment technology to improve student learning outcomes. There are some companies that are looking to replace teachers. And as Ayush alluded to, fail doing so. But across the world, and we are a much more similar world post the pandemic for education than we were pre-pandemic. We are solving in similar ways. Naga, do you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I see generative AI has a tremendous potential to transform the way education, particularly in school education space, it is expected to be. Two important things for learning. One is personalized content and conversational engagement with the child. These two things are possible, quite possible with generative AI, which is very important for academic learning. And that, in a way, is going to democratize quality education becoming accessible to remote corners of the country and for all the students at a very cost-effective way. So that what it leads to is students learn without knowledge gaps. That increases their capacity, their potential. If you extrapolate it, the world is going to be a better place because most people are competent, capable of doing more things. That's the potential that the generative AI has. However, if anybody thinks that a teacher can be substituted, probably thinking too much. A teacher is very important. And the role of the teacher is going to change quite substantially.
Also, a teacher who can be replaced by technology should get replaced. And I don't mean it in a controversial sense, but if all you're doing is reading out that book to kids and you don't see your role in actually inspiring the child or raising kids or really getting them to rise to their potential, then perhaps it's better that technology takes care of that part.
So I think, the first use case of disruption, according to me, are two keywords, which is either a Gen AI would help increase the efficiency or the efficacy, right? So the manpower which is there, which is teachers, school leaders, can that really help make them more efficient, right? And can Gen AI also improve the efficacy of the programs or the products that are being delivered? I think these are the two use cases in Indian context which I feel could be disrupted or can have the power to be helpful for the Indian market. Yeah.
Are you using generative AI in your product?
So we are just building a strong use case. We didn't want to wrap around a chat GPT piece to just find a use case, but really build a strong use case, which we are in the process. And yeah, we'll soon be releasing that, yeah.
So just in closing, and this is for all of you, you've been here in the US for the past few weeks as part of this delegation, the ARISE delegation, visiting schools, meeting EdTech companies that are focused on areas of interest like early education, personalized learning, AI. And I'm curious to understand more about, you've all been part of the founding of this organization. How far do you feel like you've come since the founding in terms of advancing your desire to progress school education? And where do you hope to go next? And how can folks who are here or watching on video get in touch with you?
So we're a fairly large network of schools, and also, if I may say so, influential. Schools across the country look up to us for innovation. Yeah, I can tell you right now, it was great seeing a lot of AI companies trying to do some stuff here. We still have not witnessed a single company coming to our doors in India right now. And you might imagine that there's a lot of EdTech work happening in the country, but we've not had anybody knocking on our doors right now. So when we saw these hundreds of companies trying to do stuff, clearly you're ahead. Yeah. And I'd say take the risk, create products for India. These generic kind of products are not going to work. It is a huge market. There is a capacity to pay. And more than everything else, I say that because India needs it. India needs all the technology in the world. There are kids getting nothing in the name of education. This very poor employability skills, a lot of unemployment, and if we just ignore this 1/5 of the world's population, 300 million kids, the world is going to pay a price. And so I almost need you to conspire with us to do something for the country. And we're all here. This network is happy to, if you want to run your products by us, if you want to understand how stuff can be contextualized, if you want us to get you to reach out to other schools in the country or even governments or sit with you. We're not consultants in this area, but as practitioners, as users, we can definitely give you some advice and we can open doors for you.
Just to add a point to Manit's point, if we look at India, the same 300 million, 50% of it, 150 million, only 8 countries in the world have that kind of population. So even the aspirational parents segment itself is much larger than any other, most sizes of the countries. However, when you are trying to enter India, the kind of introspection you need to have, what is the shelf life of the product that you are trying to put in India? So the way the technology is transforming and the sales cycle in India is such long sales cycle, unless this product has, you believe that at least next 5 to 10 years, this product, it is very difficult for anybody else to substitute. There is no point trying to enter India. The product has to be so strong, so deep, and it should be compelling and withstand to all the potential changes in technology. Then only this is going to have life. Otherwise, it's just going to be waste of effort.
I concur.
Ayush, closing word?
I'll leave to the 3 co-founders of ARISE.
We are happy to assist in any way we can. There's a lot of work that we're doing with EDT. And I think their understanding of the US capacity is right up there. But in any way, if any one of us can be of any assistance, but one thing we are very sure of is student first, and in whichever way we can contribute to them, we'd be happy to.
Thank you, all of you. Ayush, Arunabh, Naga, Manit, thank you. And thank you to all of you for joining us this afternoon. Have a good one.
Thank you so much.